The fluorescent lights hummed with electrical tension in the operations briefing room at Fort Braxton Air Force Base, casting harsh shadows across the polished conference table, where Jessica Chen sat with her hands folded carefully in her lap. At 26 years old, she possessed the kind of quiet intensity that made people uncomfortable when they bothered to notice her at all. Her dark hair was pulled back in regulation style, and her uniform bore the insignia of a technical sergeant. But what drew the attention of every person in the room was the sleek black prosthetic leg that extended from her left knee down to a specially designed flight boot. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Colonel Frank Morrison dominated the head of the table like a fortress made of starched fabric and military protocol. His chest displayed ribbons that told the story of 3 decades in military aviation, including tours in Afghanistan and Iraq that had earned him the kind of respect that came with genuine combat experience. At 52, his gray temples and weathered hands spoke of countless hours in cockpits where split-second decisions determined who lived and who didn't. Major Lisa Rodriguez sat to his right, her expression carefully neutral as she reviewed a thick folder marked with security classifications that suggested its contents could alter the course of military operations. Captain David Blake occupied the chair across from Jessica, his younger face carrying the kind of confidence that came from never having experienced serious failure. The air in the room carried the familiar scent of jet fuel that seemed to permeate every building on the base, a constant reminder that this was a place where the most advanced aircraft in the world prepared for missions that would never appear in any public record. Through the reinforced windows, the distant roar of F-22 Raptors conducting training exercises provided a soundtrack that underscored the serious nature of everything that happened within these walls. Jessica's prosthetic leg represented more than just a medical device. It was a technological marvel that had cost the Military Research Division over $2 million to develop and refine. The titanium and carbon fiber construction incorporated gyroscopic stabilizers, pressure sensors, and neural interface technology that allowed her to control its movements with the same precision she had once possessed with her biological limb. The accident that had taken her leg 18 months ago had also taken her active flight status, relegating her to a desk job in flight operations, analysis where her extensive knowledge of aircraft systems was considered useful, but not essential. Before, the improvised explosive device had changed everything during a supply mission over Syria. Jessica had been one of the most promising helicopter pilots in her squadron. Her natural ability to read weather patterns, understand complex mechanical systems, and maintain perfect control under extreme stress had marked her as someone destined for the most challenging assignments. She had logged over 800 hours of flight time in hostile environments, including night operations, extreme weather conditions, and missions where mechanical failures should have resulted in catastrophic crashes, but didn't because of her almost supernatural ability to coax performance from damaged aircraft. The briefing room itself reflected the kind of sterile efficiency that characterized modern military facilities. Charts covered one wall showing global deployment patterns, while banks of monitors displayed real-time intelligence feeds from conflicts around the world. The conference table was surrounded by chairs that had witnessed thousands of hours of strategic planning, mission briefings, and the kind of difficult conversations that happened when military operations didn't go according to plan. Colonel Morrison cleared his throat with the authority of someone accustomed to commanding immediate attention from everyone in his presence. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to discuss with you is classified at the highest levels of military intelligence. The mission we're considering has been deemed impossible by every aviation expert who has examined the parameters. His voice carried the weight of someone who had spent decades delivering information that would send young men and women into situations where survival was never guaranteed. Jessica shifted slightly in her chair, the servo motors in her prosthetic leg adjusting automatically to maintain balance and comfort. The neural interface technology allowed her to control the device with subconscious thoughts, but she remained acutely aware of its presence in situations like this, where every movement was subject to scrutiny from people who viewed her artificial limb as evidence of fundamental limitation rather than adaptive capability. Major Rodriguez opened her folder with practiced precision, revealing satellite photographs that showed terrain so hostile and forbidding that it seemed designed specifically to defeat any aircraft that attempted to navigate through it. Operation Silent Thunder requires insertion of a 4-person reconnaissance team into the Kurdistan Mountains along the Iranian border. The target location is surrounded by surface-to-air missile installations, radar arrays that can detect aircraft at ranges exceeding 50 miles, and weather patterns that create atmospheric conditions unlike anything our pilots train for. The photograph showed jagged peaks that rose to elevations exceeding 12,000 feet, with narrow valleys that twisted through rock formations like a maze designed by someone with intimate knowledge of how to destroy aircraft and kill pilots. Weather data indicated wind patterns that could change direction and intensity within seconds, creating downdrafts and crosswinds that would challenge even the most experienced aviators. Intelligence reports suggested that the enemy had specifically chosen this location because they believed it was unreachable by conventional military aircraft. Captain Blake leaned forward with the eagerness of someone who had never encountered a challenge he couldn't overcome through determination and superior training. Sir, with respect, every mission seems impossible until someone figures out how to make it work. We have the most advanced helicopters in the world, pilots with thousands of hours of experience, and support systems that can overcome any obstacle. His confidence radiated from every word, carrying the assumption that American military superiority could solve any problem through the application of sufficient force and technology. Colonel Morrison's expression darkened with the kind of professional concern that came from understanding the difference between confidence and recklessness. Captain, this isn't about patriotic speeches or advanced technology. 3 separate reconnaissance missions have been attempted in the past 6 months. 2 aircraft were shot down with no survivors, and the third managed to return to base, but was so badly damaged that it was written off as a total loss. The pilot spent 4 months in medical rehabilitation and will never fly again. The weight of those failures settled over the room like a heavy blanket, transforming abstract military planning into the concrete reality of young people dying in burning aircraft, or spending the rest of their lives dealing with injuries that would define every aspect of their future existence. Jessica had seen enough combat to understand that behind every mission failure were family members who would receive folded flags and explanations that their loved ones had died in service to their country. Major Rodriguez continued with clinical precision that masked the emotional weight of what she was describing. The mission profile requires an aircraft to approach the target location at extremely low altitude to avoid radar detection, navigate through mountain passes that provide clearance of less than 50 feet on either side, and maintain perfect control while dealing with wind conditions that can change from calm to 70-knot crosswinds in under 30 seconds. She paused to let the technical requirements sink in before adding, "The insertion point is located on a plateau approximately the size of a basketball court, surrounded by cliffs that drop straight down for over 2,000 feet. Jessica studied the satellite imagery with the kind of analytical focus that had made her exceptional at identifying patterns and solutions that others missed. Her mind automatically began calculating approach angles, fuel consumption rates, and the kind of precise timing that would be required to successfully complete such a mission. The challenge wasn't just about flying skill. It was about understanding how multiple complex systems would interact under conditions that existed nowhere in any training manual. The prosthetic leg that had ended her active flight status incorporated technology that most people couldn't fully comprehend. The neural interface system didn't just respond to her conscious commands. It learned from her movement patterns, anticipated her intentions, and provided feedback that allowed her to maintain the kind of precise control that pilots needed when dealing with aircraft that were operating at the absolute limits of their performance capabilities. What the Military Medical Board had classified as a disability was actually an enhancement that gave her capabilities no other pilot possessed. "Captain," Blake's voice cut through the technical analysis with frustrated determination. "Sir, I've reviewed the mission parameters, and while I acknowledge the challenges, I believe a combination of superior piloting skills and careful mission planning can overcome the obstacles. We can't allow our enemies to believe there are places American forces can't reach." His words carried the kind of military bravado that looked impressive in movies, but often led to unnecessary casualties in real combat situations. Colonel Morrison stood slowly, his full height and military bearing filling the room with the kind of authority that came from decades of making decisions where being wrong meant people died. "Captain Blake, your confidence is admirable, but this mission requires more than courage and determination. The aircraft that attempted this mission were flown by pilots with combined experience exceeding 15,000 hours. These weren't rookies making basic mistakes. These were some of our best aviators flying state-of-the-art equipment under carefully planned conditions." The silence that followed carried the weight of professional reality colliding with military necessity. Everyone in the room understood that somewhere in the Pentagon, senior officers were looking at maps and intelligence reports that demanded action regardless of the human cost. Strategic objectives didn't pause for concerns about pilot safety or aircraft loss rates, and the men and women in this room were expected to find ways to accomplish missions that existed at the intersection of critical importance and practical impossibility. Jessica's fingers traced the edge of the satellite. Photographs, her mind working through calculations that incorporated variables most pilots never had to consider. The prosthetic leg's neural interface provided her with feedback about balance, pressure distribution, and muscular tension that normal pilots receive through biological systems that could be overwhelmed by stress, fatigue, or fear. Her artificial limb maintained perfect performance regardless of external conditions, providing a level of consistency and precision that biological systems couldn't match. Major Rodriguez gathered the classified materials with movements that suggested this. Briefing was reaching its conclusion. "Gentlemen and Sergeant Chun, I want you to understand that we're not looking for volunteers for this mission. We're looking for solutions. If anyone in this room believes they have insights that could make Operation Silent Thunder feasible, I want to hear them. But I also want you to understand that romantic notions about American determination aren't going to overcome the laws of physics or the realities of advanced enemy air defense systems." The dismissal was clear, but Jessica remained seated as the others began to file out of the briefing room. Her mind continued processing the technical requirements of the mission, identifying patterns and possibilities that her unique combination of analytical training and practical flight experience allowed her to see. The prosthetic leg that everyone viewed as evidence of her limitations was actually providing her with capabilities that no other pilot in the room possessed, if only they could understand how adaptive technology could enhance rather than replace human performance. Colonel Morrison noticed her hesitation and paused at the door, his expression showing the kind of professional courtesy that senior officers extended to subordinates who had earned respect through competence rather than rank. "Sergeant Chun, do you have something to add to this discussion?" His tone suggested genuine interest rather than dismissive obligation, recognizing that technical expertise could come from unexpected sources. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Jessica looked up from the satellite photographs, her voice steady despite the significance of what she was about to suggest. "Sir, I believe I might have a different perspective on this mission profile. My experience with adaptive flight systems and precision control under non-standard conditions might be relevant to the challenges. Operation Silent Thunder presents. The words were carefully chosen to avoid sounding presumptuous while conveying confidence in capabilities that others had already dismissed as irrelevant to active flight operations. The colonel's expression shifted to something between curiosity and professional skepticism, the look of someone who had learned to listen to unexpected ideas while maintaining realistic expectations about their practical value. Sergeant, I appreciate your willingness to contribute, but this mission requires active flight capability under extreme conditions. Your current medical status restricts you to ground-based operations analysis. His words carried the weight of military regulation rather than personal judgment, but the effect was the same. Jessica stood slowly, the prosthetic leg adjusting automatically to provide perfect balance and stability. Sir, respectfully, my medical status might actually provide advantages that standard flight training doesn't address. The neural interface technology in my prosthetic incorporates feedback systems and precision controls that could be highly relevant to the kind of exact maneuvering this mission requires. Her voice carried the quiet confidence of someone who understood technical capabilities that others had never encountered. The room fell silent except for the distant sound of aircraft engines and the subtle hum of electronic systems that monitored everything happening within the classified briefing area. Colonel Morrison studied Jessica with the kind of analytical attention that experienced officers applied to situations that didn't fit standard categories, weighing unknown factors against established procedures and institutional assumptions about what was possible or advisable. Sergeant Chun, he said finally, I want you to prepare a detailed technical analysis of how your unique circumstances might apply to this mission profile. But I also want you to understand that theoretical possibilities and practical implementation are very different things. This isn't a research project. It's a mission where failure means people die. His words carried both opportunity and warning, acknowledging her request while emphasizing the stakes involved. As Jessica left the briefing room, her prosthetic leg moved with mechanical precision that matched the determination in her mind. The challenge ahead wasn't just about proving she could fly a difficult mission. It was about changing fundamental assumptions about disability, capability, and what it meant to be qualified for the most demanding challenges military aviation could present. 3 days after the classified briefing, Jessica found herself standing before a wall of monitors in the Advanced Flight Analysis Center, a facility that existed in the basement levels of Fort Braxton, where the most sensitive military aviation research took place away from prying eyes. The screens displayed a three-dimensional, tactical map that revealed the full scope of Operation Silent Thunder's complexity in ways that satellite photographs could never convey. Mountains rose from the digital landscape like the teeth of some prehistoric beast, their peaks shrouded in cloud formations that shifted and evolved according to real-time meteorological data fed directly from reconnaissance drones operating along the Iranian border. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Walsh, the base's senior intelligence analyst, stood beside a holographic projection table that rendered the target zone in perfect detail. Her 15 years of experience analyzing impossible missions had given her the kind of professional pessimism that came from watching too many brave people die attempting objectives that looked achievable on paper, but proved lethal in practice. The deep lines around her eyes spoke of countless nights spent studying mission failures, trying to understand why careful planning and superior equipment weren't enough to overcome certain combinations of terrain, weather, and enemy defenses. Sergeant Chun, Walsh began, her voice carrying the weight of classified knowledge that few people would ever be authorized to possess. What you're about to see represents 18 months of intelligence gathering, satellite surveillance, and analysis by some of the most experienced tactical planners in the military. Every detail of this mission profile has been examined by experts who specialize in high-risk operations, and their unanimous conclusion is that Operation Silent Thunder exceeds the operational limits of current military aviation capabilities. The holographic display shifted to show the approach route that any aircraft would need to follow to reach the target location. The path twisted through mountain valleys that narrowed to widths barely sufficient for helicopter rotor clearance, rose and fell through elevation changes that would challenge the most powerful engines, and included segments where pilots would need to maintain perfect control while flying essentially blind, through cloud cover that could conceal enemy installations or sudden changes in terrain. Jessica studied the display with the analytical focus that had made her exceptional at identifying patterns in complex data sets. Her prosthetic leg's neural interface systems were already processing information about balance, spatial relationships, and the kind of precise control movements that would be required to navigate such challenging terrain. The technology that medical boards classified as a limitation was actually providing her with computational capabilities that biological systems couldn't match, allowing her to visualize flight paths and control inputs with mathematical precision. Dr. Michael Torres, the base's chief aviation psychologist, occupied a corner workstation where multiple screens displayed psychological evaluation reports from the pilots who had attempted previous missions in the Kurdistan Mountains. His responsibility involved understanding why highly trained, psychologically stable aviators had made critical errors that resulted in aircraft loss and casualties. The data painted a disturbing picture of how extreme stress could overwhelm even the most experienced pilots when they encountered conditions that exceeded their training parameters. The psychological factors are as significant as the technical challenges, Dr. Torres explained, his voice carrying the clinical detachment that mental health professionals used when discussing human limitations. Each pilot who attempted these missions possessed exemplary service records, extensive experience in hostile environments, and psychological profiles that indicated exceptional stress tolerance. However, the combination of extreme precision, requirements, mortal danger, and time pressure created cognitive overload that compromised their decision-making abilities. The psychological evaluation reports revealed a pattern that military aviation had encountered before, but never fully solved. Pilots who were capable of extraordinary performance under normal combat conditions could experience rapid deterioration in judgment and motor skills when faced with challenges that demanded perfection rather than merely excellence. The difference between successfully completing a difficult mission and dying in a crashed aircraft often came down to fractions of seconds and margins of error measured in inches rather than feet. Lieutenant Commander Walsh activated a different section of the holographic display, revealing enemy defense installations that surrounded the target zone like a carefully designed death trap. Surface-to-air missile batteries occupied positions that provided overlapping coverage of every possible approach route, while radar installations offered detection capabilities that could identify aircraft at ranges exceeding 60 miles. Intelligence reports indicated that enemy forces had specifically chosen this location because they believed it was unreachable by conventional military assets. The enemy isn't relying solely on natural terrain to protect their installation, Walsh continued, her finger tracing defensive positions that had been identified through months of surveillance. They've positioned SA-15 and SA-17 missile systems at elevations that allow them to engage aircraft flying through the mountain valleys, and their radar coverage includes installations that can track objects as small as birds at ranges that would allow them to target our aircraft long before we could reach the insertion point. The defensive network represented a masterpiece of strategic planning that exploited every advantage the terrain provided while supplementing natural obstacles with military technology designed specifically to destroy aircraft. Enemy commanders had studied American military capabilities, and developed countermeasures that turned the mountain environment into a nearly impregnable fortress where traditional aviation tactics would result in certain destruction. Jessica's mind processed the defensive layout with the kind of systematic analysis that her background in flight operations had taught her to apply to complex tactical problems. The prosthetic leg's neural interface provided her with feedback about spatial relationships and movement, patterns that allowed her to visualize how an aircraft might navigate through the defensive network using approaches that conventional tactical planning might not consider. Her unique combination of technological enhancement and practical experience was revealing possibilities that purely biological pilots might not perceive. Captain Amanda Foster, a senior helicopter pilot with over 2,000 hours of combat experience, joined the briefing with movement patterns that betrayed the stress of someone who had volunteered for the previous mission attempts and been rejected due to aircraft availability rather than pilot qualifications. Her hands showed the slight tremor that experienced aviators developed when they spent too much time thinking about missions that killed people with skills identical to their own. "Sergeant Chun," Captain Foster said, her voice carrying the professional respect that combat veterans extended to others who had faced hostile fire, "I want you to understand what we're really dealing with here. The 3 aircraft that attempted this mission weren't flown by rookies or second-string pilots. Major Catherine Hayes had over 1,500 hours of combat flight time and had successfully completed 23 high-risk insertions without a single incident. Captain Robert Martinez was one of our most experienced night operations specialists, capable of flying in conditions where most pilots would be grounded." The names carried weight because they represented the kind of aviators that other pilots looked up to, the ones who made difficult missions look routine and dangerous operations appear manageable. When pilots of that caliber failed catastrophically, it sent shockwaves through the entire aviation community and raised questions about whether certain missions were simply beyond human capability regardless of training, experience, or determination. Dr. Torres accessed personnel files that painted detailed pictures of the psychological profiles and performance records of the pilots who had been lost in previous mission attempts. Major Hayes was selected for this mission specifically because her psychological evaluations indicated exceptional stress tolerance and decision-making capability under extreme pressure. Her flight simulator scores consistently ranked in the top 5% of all military aviators, and her combat performance had earned her commendations for missions that other pilots considered impossible. The psychological data revealed pilots who had been carefully selected based on criteria that should have predicted success under the exact conditions Operation Silent Thunder would present. They possessed the technical skills, mental stability, and combat experience that military science indicated were necessary for survival in high-stress environments. Their failure suggested that the mission requirements exceeded the fundamental limits of human performance rather than indicating inadequate preparation or poor judgment. Lieutenant Commander Walsh manipulated the holographic display to show weather patterns that added another layer of complexity to an already overwhelming tactical challenge. Meteorological data indicated wind conditions that could change from calm to catastrophic within seconds, temperature variations that affected aircraft performance in unpredictable ways, and atmospheric pressure fluctuations that could cause instruments to provide misleading information at critical moments. The weather patterns in the Kurdistan Mountains create a perfect storm of atmospheric conditions that our pilots aren't trained to handle, Walsh explained, her voice carrying the frustration of someone who understood problems without being able to solve them. Mountain-induced turbulence can create downdrafts exceeding 2,000 feet per minute, wind shear that can flip an aircraft in under 3 seconds, and visibility conditions that can change from perfect to zero in the time it takes to complete a single maneuver. The meteorological challenges represented forces of nature that couldn't be overcome through superior training or advanced technology. Weather systems in mountainous regions followed patterns that meteorologists could predict in general terms, but couldn't forecast with the precision that military operations required. Pilots attempting Operation Silent Thunder would need to make split-second decisions based on atmospheric conditions that could change faster than human reflexes could respond. Jessica's prosthetic leg contained atmospheric pressure sensors and gyroscopic stabilizers that provided her with real-time feedback about environmental conditions in ways that biological systems couldn't match. The neural interface technology was designed to process multiple data streams simultaneously, allowing her to maintain perfect balance and control even when external conditions were changing rapidly. What others viewed as a medical device was actually a sophisticated computer system that could enhance human performance under exactly the conditions. Operation Silent Thunder would present. Captain Foster pulled up flight recorder data from the most recent mission attempt, audio recordings that captured the final minutes of Captain Martinez's aircraft before it disappeared into the mountains without any distress signal or indication of what had gone wrong. The recordings revealed a pilot who was maintaining professional calm while dealing with conditions that were rapidly exceeding his ability to maintain control. "Listen to this," Foster said, her voice tight with professional concern as she activated the audio playback. Captain Martinez's voice came through the speakers with crystalline clarity, professional and controlled, despite circumstances that would terrify most people. "Control, this is Falcon 7. I'm experiencing severe turbulence and instrument fluctuations. Wind conditions are not matching forecast parameters. Attempting to maintain course, but I'm going to need updated meteorological data if available." The recording continued for another 90 seconds, documenting a pilot who was following all the correct procedures while dealing with atmospheric conditions that his training hadn't prepared him for. His voice remained steady and professional, even as the challenges he was facing became insurmountable, demonstrating the kind of courage and competence that made his loss particularly difficult for the aviation community to accept. Dr. Torres provided psychological analysis that revealed the cognitive challenges pilots faced when dealing with rapidly changing conditions that exceeded their training parameters. The human brain processes complex information at a rate that's normally sufficient for aviation tasks. But when pilots encounter multiple simultaneous challenges that require immediate response, cognitive overload can occur within seconds. Even the most experienced aviators can find themselves unable to process information quickly enough to maintain control. The psychological limitations represented fundamental constraints on human performance that couldn't be overcome through better training or superior willpower. Biological neural systems, despite their remarkable capabilities, had processing speeds and capacity limitations that could be overwhelmed by the kind of multivariable challenges Operation Silent Thunder presented. Traditional pilot training focused on building experience and judgment, but it couldn't increase the basic computational capacity of human consciousness. Jessica's neural interface technology operated at processing speeds that exceeded biological systems by several orders of magnitude. The prosthetic leg's computer systems could analyze multiple data streams, calculate optimal responses, and provide feedback to her nervous system faster than conscious thought could occur. Her unique combination of human judgment and artificial computational power represented capabilities that traditional aviation had never encountered. Lieutenant Commander Walsh accessed classified files that revealed the strategic importance of Operation Silent Thunder beyond the immediate tactical objectives. Intelligence reports indicated that the enemy installation was being used to coordinate attacks against American forces throughout the region, and its continued operation was resulting in casualties that could be prevented if the facility could be neutralized. The mission wasn't just about proving American military capabilities. It was about saving lives and disrupting enemy operations that threatened ongoing military objectives. The intelligence we need to gather from this facility could potentially save hundreds of lives and significantly degrade enemy operational capacity throughout the region. Walsh explained, her voice carrying the weight of strategic responsibilities that extended far beyond a single mission. However, we can't justify continued attempts using conventional approaches when the casualty rate approaches 100%. We need a fundamentally different approach, or we need to accept that this target is beyond our reach. The strategic implications created pressure for success that went beyond military pride or technological demonstration. Real people were dying because of operations coordinated from the facility that Operation Silent Thunder was designed to reach. And the inability to complete the mission meant that those deaths would continue. The moral weight of inaction was competing with the practical reality that continued. Mission attempts using traditional methods would only add to the casualty count without achieving meaningful results. Jessica studied the comprehensive mission analysis with growing conviction that her unique capabilities represented exactly the kind of different approach the situation required. The prosthetic leg that had ended her conventional flight career was actually providing her with advantages that biological pilots couldn't match under the extreme conditions Operation Silent Thunder presented. The question wasn't whether she was qualified for the mission. The question was whether the military establishment could overcome their assumptions about disability and recognize adaptive technology as enhancement rather than limitation. The wall of monitors continued displaying data that painted a picture of challenges that had defeated the best pilots military aviation could produce using the most advanced aircraft available. But Jessica was seeing patterns and possibilities that others had missed, solutions that became visible only when artificial and biological capabilities were combined in ways that traditional thinking hadn't considered. The mission that everyone else considered impossible was beginning to look achievable to someone whose perspective had been fundamentally altered by circumstances that others viewed as disqualifying limitations. Jessica spent the following week buried in classified data archives that existed 3 levels beneath Fort Braxton's main administrative complex, in a climate-controlled facility where the military stored electronic records of every flight operation conducted over the past 2 decades. The Advanced Data Analysis Suite contained computing systems that could process millions of flight parameters simultaneously, cross-referencing everything from pilot biometric data to atmospheric conditions with a precision that revealed patterns invisible to conventional analysis methods. Her prosthetic leg's neural interface had been modified by the base's biomedical engineering team to connect directly with the computer systems, allowing her to process information at speeds that biological cognition couldn't achieve. Dr. Elizabeth Manning, the lead researcher for the military's Human-Machine Interface program, had spent 6 months developing the connection protocols that allowed Jessica's artificial limb to serve as a direct bridge between her consciousness and digital processing systems. The result was a form of augmented intelligence that could identify correlations and anomalies that pure human analysis would miss. The data integration we're seeing here represents a fundamental breakthrough in human-computer collaboration, Dr. Manning explained as she monitored Jessica's neural activity through sensors that tracked brainwave patterns, eye movement, and the electrical signals traveling between her nervous system and the prosthetic device. Your artificial limb isn't just replacing biological function. It's enhancing cognitive capability in ways that could revolutionize how we approach complex analytical problems. The archives contained flight recorder data from over 12,000 military aviation operations, including detailed records from missions that had failed under circumstances similar to Operation Silent Thunder. Jessica's enhanced analytical capabilities allowed her to identify patterns that connected atmospheric conditions, pilot stress responses, aircraft performance parameters, and tactical outcomes across years of accumulated data. The prosthetic leg's computer systems could process multiple data streamed simultaneously while her biological consciousness focused on interpretation and pattern recognition. Through 17-hour analysis sessions that would have exhausted normal human cognitive capacity, Jessica began uncovering correlations that revealed a disturbing truth about military aviation training. The computer systems integrated into her prosthetic identified flight scenarios where highly trained pilots had failed not because of inadequate skills or poor judgment, but because their training had prepared them for atmospheric conditions that no longer existed in many operational environments. Climate data analysis revealed that weather patterns in mountainous regions worldwide had shifted significantly over the past 5 years, creating atmospheric conditions that differed substantially from the historical averages that military training programs used as baseline parameters. Wind patterns that had been predictable for decades were now characterized by rapid variations and intensity changes that exceeded the parameters most pilots had trained for. Temperature gradients, pressure variations, and humidity levels were creating flight environments that existing training simulations couldn't accurately replicate. "Look at this correlation pattern," Jessica said to Dr. Manning, her voice carrying the excitement of discovery as data streams flowed across multiple monitors in real time. Pilot stress indicators spike precisely when atmospheric conditions deviate from training simulation parameters by more than 15%. The biological stress response isn't triggered by objective danger levels. It's triggered by encountering conditions that don't match learned expectations. The neural interface allowed Jessica to process atmospheric data with a precision that revealed microscopic variations in air density, pressure gradients, and electromagnetic fields that could affect aircraft performance in ways that traditional instruments couldn't detect. Her prosthetic leg contained sensors originally designed for medical monitoring that could identify environmental changes occurring at scales measured in milliseconds and fractions of degrees. The technology that medical boards considered a limitation was actually providing her with environmental awareness that exceeded the capabilities of standard aviation instruments. Dr. Manning studied the data patterns with growing amazement as Jessica's analysis revealed connections between pilot performance and environmental factors that conventional aviation science had never identified. The precision of environmental detection you're achieving suggests that traditional pilot training might be fundamentally flawed for current atmospheric conditions. We've been preparing aviators for a world that existed 10 years ago rather than the world they're actually flying in today. The revelation carried implications that extended far beyond Operation Silent Thunder to every aspect of military aviation operations. If atmospheric conditions had changed sufficiently to invalidate training assumptions, then pilots worldwide were operating with expectations that no longer matched reality. The casualties and mission failures that military aviation had attributed to inadequate preparation or exceptional circumstances might actually represent systemic problems with how pilots were trained to interact with their environment. Jessica's analysis identified specific atmospheric signatures that preceded the failures of previous Operation Silent Thunder attempts. The data revealed that each pilot had encountered rapidly changing atmospheric conditions that created a cascade of challenges requiring simultaneous responses to multiple variables. Traditional pilot training taught sequential problem-solving, approaches that became inadequate when facing problems that demanded parallel processing of multiple data streams and simultaneous control inputs. 3 days into her intensive analysis, Jessica discovered something that changed her understanding of the entire mission profile. The prosthetic leg sensor array detected electromagnetic anomalies in the target region that weren't appearing in conventional intelligence reports. The artificial limbs sensors were designed to monitor biological functions, but they were sensitive enough to identify electromagnetic fields that could interfere with aircraft electronics and navigation systems in ways that traditional detection methods missed. Dr. Manning I'm detecting electromagnetic signatures in the target zone that suggest the enemy has deployed electronic warfare systems that aren't appearing in our intelligence assessments, Jessica announced, her voice tight with concentration. As she processed data streams that would overwhelm biological cognition, the electromagnetic interference patterns could explain why our pilots experienced instrument malfunctions that weren't consistent with mechanical failures or atmospheric conditions. The electromagnetic warfare revelation added a new dimension to Operation Silent Thunder's challenges that explained many of the anomalies in previous mission failures. Enemy forces weren't just relying on missiles and radar systems to defend their installation. They were using electronic warfare technologies that could disrupt aircraft systems in subtle ways that would appear to be equipment malfunctions or pilot errors rather than hostile actions. Dr. Manning immediately contacted Colonel Morrison to report Jessica's discoveries, but it was Master Sergeant Robert Hayes who responded to the urgent briefing request. Hayes was a legend in military aviation electronics, a man whose 40-year career had included designing countermeasures for every form of electronic warfare the military had encountered. His weathered hands bore scars from decades of working with high-voltage systems, and his gray eyes held the kind of deep knowledge that came from understanding technology at levels that most people couldn't comprehend. Sergeant Chen, Hayes said as he studied the electromagnetic data that Jessica's prosthetic had detected, what you've identified here explains more than just the Operation Silent Thunder failures. These electromagnetic signatures match patterns we've been tracking in other theaters where our aircraft have experienced unexplained system malfunctions. His voice carried the weight of someone who had spent decades trying to solve technical mysteries that cost lives when they remained unsolved. Hayes revealed that military intelligence had been investigating reports of aircraft system failures that seemed to cluster in certain geographical regions, but they hadn't been able to identify the source of the electromagnetic interference that Jessica's prosthetic had detected. Traditional detection equipment was designed to identify obvious electronic warfare signatures, but the systems the enemy was using operated at frequencies and power levels that fell below conventional detection thresholds. The electromagnetic warfare systems you've identified operate by creating subtle interference patterns that disrupt aircraft electronics gradually rather than causing immediate system failures, Hayes explained, his fingers tracing data patterns that told a story of technological warfare conducted at levels most people never realized existed. Pilots experience instrument malfunctions that seem like equipment failures rather than hostile actions, which makes them think they're dealing with mechanical problems when they're actually under electronic attack. The discovery transformed Operation Silent Thunder from a mission that had failed due to exceptional difficulty into a mission that had failed because pilots were unknowingly flying into electronic warfare environments while expecting their instruments to provide accurate information. The enemy hadn't just chosen a geographically challenging location. They had enhanced the natural defenses with technology designed to defeat American aircraft through methods that were virtually undetectable using conventional intelligence gathering techniques. Jessica's prosthetic leg had detected the electromagnetic warfare systems because its medical sensors operated at sensitivity levels that exceeded military detection equipment. The neural interface technology required precise monitoring of biological electrical activity, which made it capable of identifying electromagnetic interference that would be invisible to conventional aviation electronics. Her artificial limb was essentially functioning as an advanced electronic warfare detection system that provided capabilities no other pilot possessed. Master Sergeant Hayes studied Jessica's data with the focused intensity of someone who had spent decades trying to protect American aircraft from technological threats that evolved faster than defensive countermeasures could be developed. Sergeant Chun, the electromagnetic warfare detection capabilities built into your prosthetic represent technology that our electronic warfare specialists have been trying to develop for over 10 years. The medical necessity of monitoring your biological functions has created a sensor array that exceeds our most advanced military detection systems. The implications were staggering because they suggested that Jessica's prosthetic didn't just provide her with enhanced flight control capabilities. It also gave her electronic warfare detection abilities that could protect her from the electromagnetic interference that had contributed to previous mission failures. The technology that medical boards classified as a limitation was actually providing her with capabilities that represented the cutting edge of military electronic systems. Hayes accessed classified files that revealed the extent of electronic warfare threats that American aviation faced in operational environments worldwide. The enemy had developed sophisticated systems that could disrupt aircraft electronics without triggering the obvious warning signs that pilots were trained to recognize. These systems created gradual degradation of instrument accuracy, subtle interference with communication systems, and navigation errors that appeared to be equipment malfunctions rather than hostile actions. The electronic warfare systems operating in the target zone represent a level of technological sophistication that suggests enemy forces understand our detection capabilities better than we understood theirs. Hayes continued, his voice carrying professional concern about military technology gaps that could prove fatal in combat situations. They've developed systems that exploit weaknesses in our detection methods, which means traditional countermeasures are ineffective because we can't identify the source of interference. Jessica's discovery meant that Operation Silent Thunder wasn't just challenging because of terrain, weather, and conventional defenses. It was nearly impossible because pilots were flying into electronic warfare environments without realizing they were under attack. The instrument malfunctions and navigation errors that had contributed to previous failures weren't random equipment failures or atmospheric interference. They were the result of carefully designed electronic attacks that disrupted aircraft systems while remaining undetectable to conventional sensors. The prosthetic leg's electromagnetic detection capabilities could provide Jessica with real-time awareness of electronic warfare threats, allowing her to distinguish between actual instrument malfunctions and electromagnetic interference. More importantly, the neural interface technology could process multiple threat indicators simultaneously while maintaining aircraft control, providing her with multitasking capabilities that biological pilots couldn't match when dealing with complex electromagnetic environments. Hayes revealed that military researchers had been attempting to develop pilot enhancement technologies that could provide the kind of multispectrum awareness and rapid response capabilities that Jessica's prosthetic provided naturally. The Human-Machine Interface Program has spent over $50 million trying to create exactly the kind of integrated sensor and control systems that medical necessity has given you. Your prosthetic represents technologies that are most advanced research programs haven't been able to successfully implement. The conversation revealed that Jessica's unique circumstances had created capabilities that military science had been trying to develop through deliberate research and engineering programs. The prosthetic leg that had ended her conventional flight career was actually providing her with enhanced abilities that represented the future of military aviation technology. What others viewed as a medical limitation was actually a technological advantage that could revolutionize how pilots operated in hostile electronic environments. Dr. Manning returned to the analysis facility with additional data that supported Jessica's discoveries about electromagnetic warfare systems. The correlation analysis confirms that electromagnetic interference patterns preceded every instrument malfunction recorded in previous Operation Silent Thunder attempts. The enemy has been conducting electronic warfare against our aircraft, using methods that our detection systems weren't designed to identify. The revelation meant that Operation Silent Thunder had been failing not because it was inherently impossible, but because American forces had been attempting the mission without understanding the full scope of threats they were facing. Traditional mission planning had focused on terrain, weather, and conventional defenses while missing the electronic warfare components that were actually the primary cause of aircraft losses. Jessica's analysis had identified the hidden factor that made Operation Silent Thunder appear impossible when it was actually achievable for pilots who possessed the right combination of electromagnetic detection capabilities and enhanced control systems. Her prosthetic leg provided exactly those capabilities, transforming her from someone who was medically disqualified for flight operations into potentially the only pilot who could successfully complete the mission. The truth discovery phase was complete, but it had revealed challenges and opportunities that extended far beyond a single mission. Jessica had uncovered systematic problems with military aviation training and identified technological solutions that could protect American pilots in electronic warfare environments worldwide. The question now was whether military leadership would recognize the significance of her discoveries and authorize her to prove that adaptive technology could succeed where traditional approaches had failed. The secure hangar at the far edge of Fort Braxton's restricted flight operations area had been abandoned for 3 years, officially decommissioned due to structural concerns that made it unsuitable for regular aircraft maintenance operations. In reality, Master Sergeant Hayes had quietly converted the facility into an underground research laboratory where experimental aviation technologies could be developed and tested without attracting attention from military bureaucracy that might limit innovative approaches to tactical challenges, hidden beneath rusted floor panels and camouflaged behind obsolete equipment. Hayes had installed computer systems that rivaled anything the Pentagon possessed for flight simulation and electronic warfare analysis. The laboratory represented 20 years of accumulated expertise in aviation electronics, funded through creative interpretation of equipment acquisition budgets and staffed by retired specialists who shared Hayes' conviction that military innovation required freedom from institutional oversight. Dr. Rebecca Stone arrived at the secret facility on a cold Tuesday morning, her credentials as the military's leading expert in adaptive flight control systems earning her immediate access to technologies that officially didn't exist. Stone had spent 15 years developing control interfaces for pilots with various disabilities, creating systems that could translate neural commands into aircraft control inputs with precision that exceeded biological muscle response. Her work represented the cutting edge of human-machine integration, but military medical boards had consistently rejected her recommendations for expanded implementation. Sergeant Chun, Dr. Stone said as she examined the prosthetic leg's interface specifications. What Master Sergeant Hayes has told me about your electromagnetic detection capabilities suggests that your medical device represents technology that MY research team has been trying to develop for over a decade. The neural interface systems required for precise prosthetic control are essentially identical to the pilot enhancement technologies that could revolutionize military aviation. The hidden laboratory contained flight simulation equipment that could replicate the exact atmospheric and electromagnetic conditions Operation Silent Thunder would present, including weather patterns based on current meteorological data rather than historical averages and electronic warfare scenarios that matched the interference signatures Jessica had detected. The simulation systems were connected to computer networks that could process real-time intelligence feeds, creating training environments that reflected actual operational conditions rather than theoretical approximations. Hayes activated holographic displays that showed detailed three-dimensional models of the modified MH-6OM Black Hawk helicopter that would be used for the secret demonstration. The aircraft had been equipped with experimental electronic warfare countermeasures, enhanced flight control systems, and communication equipment that could maintain contact with ground stations even while operating in hostile electromagnetic environments. More importantly, the helicopter had been modified to interface directly with Jessica's prosthetic leg, creating an integrated pilot aircraft system that could respond to threats faster than biological reflexes could manage. The key to this operation isn't just proving that you can complete Operation Silent Thunder, Hayes explained as he manipulated the holographic controls to show aircraft modifications that had taken 6 months to design and implement. We need to demonstrate that adaptive technology can provide capabilities that traditional aviation approaches can't match. This isn't about accommodation for disability. This is about enhancement that creates tactical advantages. The modified Black Hawk represented millions of dollars worth of experimental technology that had been developed through research programs, scattered across multiple military facilities and defense contractors. Hayes had used his decades of connections throughout the military electronics community to acquire components and expertise that normally would have required years of bureaucratic approval processes. The result was an aircraft that incorporated technologies that wouldn't officially exist for another 5 years. Dr. Stone connected her diagnostic equipment to Jessica's prosthetic leg, running system checks that verified the neural interfaces compatibility with the modified aircraft's control systems. The integration we're achieving here represents a fundamental advancement in pilot aircraft interface technology. Your prosthetic isn't just controlling artificial limbs. It's essentially functioning as a direct neural connection to aircraft systems that can process information and execute commands faster than conscious thought. The diagnostic results revealed that Jessica's prosthetic had capabilities that exceeded the specifications of conventional aviation control systems in multiple critical areas. The neural interface could process multiple data streams simultaneously while maintaining precise motor control. Electromagnetic sensors could detect threats that standard aircraft systems missed, and the computer processing power integrated into the medical device could calculate optimal flight paths and control inputs with mathematical precision that biological cognition couldn't achieve. Hayes revealed that the secret demonstration plan had been in development since Jessica first approached Colonel Morrison about applying her unique capabilities to Operation Silent Thunder. We've been monitoring official mission planning for the past 6 weeks, and it's become clear that conventional approaches will continue failing until someone demonstrates that alternative methods can succeed. The military establishment won't consider adaptive technology seriously until they see undeniable proof of superior performance. The plan involved conducting the complete simulation of Operation Silent Thunder using the modified aircraft and Jessica's enhanced capabilities, followed by a live demonstration that would occur simultaneously with the next official mission attempt. While conventional forces struggled with electromagnetic interference and atmospheric conditions that exceeded their training parameters, Jessica would complete the same mission profile using technologies that could adapt to hostile environments. In real-time. Dr. Stone installed additional interface hardware that connected Jessica's prosthetic directly to the aircraft's flight management systems, creating a control mechanism that could respond to pilot commands with precision measured in milliseconds rather than the seconds required for conventional control inputs. The neural interface we're implementing allows you to control aircraft systems through direct mental commands, which eliminates the delay between recognition of a threat and implementation of appropriate responses. The enhanced control systems meant that Jessica could manage multiple aircraft functions simultaneously while maintaining perfect flight control, a capability that could prove decisive when operating in environments where pilots faced rapid sequences of challenges requiring immediate responses. Traditional pilot training emphasized sequential problem-solving approaches that became inadequate when dealing with electronic warfare scenarios that presented multiple simultaneous threats. Hayes accessed classified intelligence reports that revealed the timing of the next official Operation Silent Thunder attempt, scheduled for the following week under mission parameters that hadn't been modified to address the electromagnetic warfare threats Jessica had discovered. Colonel Morrison is planning another conventional approach using standard aircraft and traditional tactics. The mission will fail for the same reasons previous attempts failed, which will provide the perfect opportunity to demonstrate superior capabilities. The secret demonstration would occur using flight paths that paralleled the official mission route, while remaining outside restricted airspace that could create jurisdictional conflicts with authorized operations. Jessica would face identical atmospheric conditions, similar electromagnetic interference patterns, and equivalent technical challenges, while using adaptive technology that could succeed where conventional approaches would fail. Dr. Stone completed the integration of experimental flight control systems that could translate Jessica's neural commands into aircraft responses with precision that exceeded the capabilities of standard aviation controls. The interface we've created allows you to pilot the aircraft using the same neural pathways that control your prosthetic leg, which means you can maintain perfect flight control while simultaneously processing electromagnetic warfare threats and atmospheric data. The integrated pilot aircraft system represented a fundamental advancement in military aviation technology that could revolutionize how pilots operated in hostile environments. Traditional aviation required pilots to divide their attention between multiple tasks and control inputs, which created cognitive workload that could become overwhelming under extreme conditions. Jessica's neural interface eliminated those limitations by allowing direct mental control of aircraft systems, while her prosthetic sensors provided environmental awareness that exceeded standard instruments. Hayes revealed additional modifications that had been made to communication systems, allowing the demonstration flight to maintain contact with ground monitoring stations while operating under electronic warfare conditions that would disrupt conventional radio communications. We've developed communication protocols that can maintain data links even while operating in the electromagnetic interference environment that surrounds the target zone. The success of your demonstration will be documented with precision that eliminates any possibility of dismissing the results. The communication systems incorporated technologies that had been developed for space operations, where electromagnetic interference and signal degradation required communication methods that could function under conditions that would defeat terrestrial radio systems. The modified equipment could maintain contact with ground stations while operating in electronic warfare environments that would completely disrupt conventional military communications. Dr. Stone conducted final system checks that verified all interfaces between Jessica's prosthetic and the modified aircraft were functioning at optimal parameters. The integration is complete, and diagnostic results indicate that you have capabilities that exceed conventional pilot aircraft interfaces in every measurable category. The neural connection provides faster response times. The electromagnetic sensors offer threat detection that standard systems miss, and the computer processing power gives you analytical capabilities that biological cognition can't match. The comprehensive testing revealed that Jessica's enhanced capabilities weren't just adequate for Operation Silent Thunder. They were specifically suited for the exact challenges that had defeated previous mission attempts. Her prosthetic could detect electromagnetic interference before it affected aircraft systems, process multiple threat indicators simultaneously, and maintain precise flight control while managing complex tactical situations that would overwhelm traditional pilots. Hayes outlined the operational security measures that would protect the secret demonstration from discovery by military officials who might attempt to prevent unauthorized mission activities. The flight will occur using aircraft that officially don't exist, following routes that aren't monitored by conventional tracking systems, and utilizing communication frequencies that won't appear in standard military monitoring networks. The demonstration will be completed and documented before anyone in the official chain of command realizes what happened. The security protocols ensured that Jessica could prove her capabilities without risking court-martial charges or interference. from military bureaucracy that might prioritize institutional procedures over tactical innovation. The demonstration would occur within legal boundaries while remaining invisible to oversight systems that could prevent the mission from proceeding. Dr. Stone provided final briefing materials that detailed every aspect of the enhanced aircraft systems and their integration with Jessica's prosthetic capabilities. You now have access to technologies that represent the future of military aviation, combined with personal capabilities that exceed anything conventional pilot training can provide. The success of this demonstration could transform how the military approaches pilot selection, training, and equipment development for decades to come. The briefing materials revealed that Jessica's unique combination of adaptive technology and practical experience positioned her to accomplish objectives that military science had considered theoretically impossible. The prosthetic leg that had ended her conventional flight career was actually providing her with capabilities that represented evolutionary advancement in pilot aircraft integration. Hayes concluded the planning session with a review of contingency procedures that would ensure Jessica's safety regardless of how the demonstration proceeded. The mission you're about to undertake will either prove that adaptive technology can succeed where conventional approaches fail, or it will demonstrate limitations that we haven't anticipated. Either way, the knowledge gained will be invaluable for future military aviation development, and your contribution will be recognized as breakthrough research regardless of the outcome. The final preparations were complete, and Jessica possessed technologies and capabilities that had never been tested under actual operational conditions. The secret demonstration would occur within 72 hours, providing undeniable proof of whether adaptive enhancement could achieve objectives that traditional military aviation had declared impossible. The question was no longer whether Jessica was qualified for Operation Silent Thunder. The question was whether the military establishment would recognize that the future of aviation had arrived ahead of schedule. Dawn broke over Fort Braxton with crystalline clarity that promised perfect visibility for aviation operations, but atmospheric monitoring stations were already detecting the subtle electromagnetic disturbances that would transform seemingly ideal flying conditions into a technological battlefield. Colonel Morrison stood on the observation deck of the primary control tower, watching the official Operation Silent Thunder aircraft undergo final pre-flight preparations while remaining unaware that 30 miles away, Jessica was conducting her own mission preparations using equipment that officially didn't exist. Major Christine Parker had been selected to pilot the official mission after extensive psychological evaluation and simulation training that confirmed her exceptional qualifications for high-stress operations. Her 15 years of military aviation experience included successful completion of 47 high-risk missions in hostile environments, and her technical expertise with the MH-6 Black Hawk helicopter ranked among the top 5% of all military aviators. Parker represented everything the military establishment considered essential for Operation Silent Thunder: superior training, extensive experience, and unwavering confidence in conventional tactical approaches. The official mission aircraft had been equipped with the most advanced electronic warfare countermeasures available to military aviation, including signal jammers that could disrupt enemy radar systems and communication equipment designed to maintain contact with command centers under hostile conditions. Intelligence briefings had provided Parker with detailed information about terrain challenges, weather patterns, and conventional defensive systems, but the electromagnetic warfare threats that Jessica had discovered remained unacknowledged in official mission planning. Control tower communications crackled with professional efficiency as Major Parker completed her pre-flight checklist and requested clearance for Operation Silent Thunder. Tower, this is Phantom 6 requesting departure clearance for classified mission profile. All systems nominal. Crew ready for insertion operations. Her voice carried the calm confidence of someone who had never encountered a challenge that superior training and determination couldn't overcome. Phantom 6, you are cleared for departure. Weather conditions optimal. Winds favorable for all phases of operation. Execute mission profile according to briefed parameters and maintain communication. Schedule as directed. The controller's response reflected institutional confidence that this attempt would succeed where previous missions had failed, based on enhanced training protocols and improved mission planning that addressed identified tactical shortcomings. 30 miles away, Jessica sat in the cockpit of the modified Black Hawk as Dr. Stone completed final system checks on the neural interface connections that would allow her prosthetic leg to serve as a direct control link with aircraft systems. The experimental communication equipment hummed with electronic activity as it established encrypted data links with Hayes monitoring station, creating a command and control network that operated outside official military channels while maintaining real-time awareness of tactical developments. All interface systems are functioning at optimal parameters, Dr. Stone reported as she monitored the data streams flowing between Jessica's prosthetic and the aircraft's flight management systems. Your electromagnetic detection capabilities are showing clear readings of the interference patterns surrounding the target zone, and the neural control interface is responding to command inputs with precision that exceeds design specifications. Jessica's enhanced awareness was already revealing atmospheric conditions that differed significantly from the historical data that official mission planning had used for weather predictions. Her prosthetic's environmental sensors detected pressure variations, electromagnetic field fluctuations, and atmospheric density changes that could affect aircraft performance in ways that STANDARD meteorological instruments couldn't identify. The information advantage provided by her adaptive technology was giving her real-time awareness of conditions that Major Parker would encounter without warning. Hayes monitored both missions simultaneously from his underground command center, using communication intercepts and radar tracking to maintain awareness of official operations, while coordinating Jessica's demonstration flight. Phantom 6 is proceeding according to standard mission profile, maintaining altitude and airspeed that match previous mission attempts. Jessica, your approach vector puts you on a parallel course that will face identical atmospheric conditions while remaining outside restricted airspace. The dual mission coordination required precise timing that would allow Jessica to demonstrate superior capabilities while avoiding any actions that could be interpreted as interference with official military operations. The success of the demonstration depended on facing identical challenges using different technological approaches, providing undeniable evidence of adaptive technology's advantages over conventional aviation methods. Major Parker's first indication of unexpected challenges came as subtle instrument fluctuations that suggested equipment malfunctions rather than hostile electronic warfare activity. Control: Phantom 6 experiencing minor instrument anomalies. Navigation displays showing drift that doesn't correspond to GPS readings, requesting verification of position data. Her voice remained calm and professional, but the electromagnetic interference Jessica had predicted was already beginning to affect the official mission aircraft. The electromagnetic warfare systems that Jessica's prosthetic had detected were operating at frequency ranges and power levels designed to create gradual instrument degradation that would appear to be equipment failures rather than hostile actions. Major Parker was encountering the same electronic warfare environment that had contributed to previous mission failures, but without awareness that her aircraft was under attack by systems that conventional detection equipment couldn't identify. Jessica's prosthetic leg provided her with real-time awareness of the electromagnetic interference patterns that were affecting Phantom 6 while remaining invisible to conventional sensors. Hayes, I'm detecting electronic warfare activity consistent with the signatures we identified during the analysis phase. The interference is targeting navigation and communication systems, using graduated power increases that create apparent equipment malfunctions rather than obvious hostile activity. The electromagnetic warfare detection capabilities built into Jessica's prosthetic were revealing the enemy's tactical approach in real time, providing her with information that could protect her from the electronic attacks that were already compromising the official mission. Her neural interface processed the interference data while maintaining precise flight control, demonstrating multitasking capabilities that biological pilots couldn't achieve under electronic warfare conditions. As Phantom 6 approached the mountain valleys that marked the beginning of Operation Silent Thunder's most challenging phase, Major Parker encountered atmospheric conditions that exceeded the parameters her training had prepared her for. Control, experiencing significant turbulence and wind shear that doesn't match forecast conditions. Aircraft handling is requiring constant correction inputs. The weather patterns that climate change had altered were presenting challenges that simulation training, based on historical data, hadn't anticipated. Jessica's approach to the same atmospheric conditions demonstrated the advantages of real-time environmental analysis over training based on historical assumptions. Her prosthetic sensors provided continuous updates about pressure variations, wind patterns, and electromagnetic field fluctuations, allowing her to anticipate atmospheric changes and adjust flight parameters proactively rather than reactively. The adaptive technology was transforming unpredictable weather into manageable operational challenges. Atmospheric conditions are matching the patterns we identified during data analysis, Jessica reported to Hayes as she navigated through turbulence that would have challenged conventional pilots. The prosthetic's environmental sensors are providing predictive data about wind changes and pressure variations, allowing anticipatory control inputs that maintain stable flight parameters. The contrast between the two missions was becoming apparent as Major Parker struggled with conditions that Jessica was managing with enhanced precision and anticipatory awareness. The electromagnetic warfare threats and atmospheric challenges that were overwhelming conventional approaches were being successfully countered by adaptive technology that could process multiple threat indicators while maintaining perfect aircraft control. Major Parker's situation deteriorated rapidly as electromagnetic interference intensified and atmospheric conditions became increasingly hostile to conventional aviation approaches. Control: I'm experiencing multiple system malfunctions including navigation errors, communication interference, and flight control anomalies. Requesting permission to abort mission and return to base immediately. The confidence that had characterized her departure was replaced by professional concern about aircraft and crew safety. The electromagnetic warfare systems were achieving their intended effect by creating multiple simultaneous challenges that exceeded conventional pilot training's ability to manage effectively. Major Parker was facing the same combination of electronic attacks and atmospheric conditions that had defeated previous Operation Silent Thunder attempts, and her responses were following the same patterns that had led to mission failure and aircraft loss. Jessica encountered identical electromagnetic warfare activity and atmospheric conditions, but her prosthetics detection capabilities allowed her to distinguish between actual equipment malfunctions and electronic interference, while maintaining awareness of environmental threats that conventional instruments missed. Hayes, I'm passing through the electronic warfare zone that's affecting Phantom 6. The prosthetic sensors are providing clear identification of interference sources, allowing implementation of countermeasures that maintain aircraft systems integrity. The neural interface technology enabled Jessica to manage electronic warfare countermeasures while maintaining precise flight control and processing atmospheric data simultaneously. Her enhanced capabilities were proving that adaptive technology could succeed in operational environments that defeated conventional approaches, providing real-time demonstration of capabilities that military science had considered theoretically Impossible. As Major Parker executed emergency abort procedures and began her return to base, Jessica continued advancing through the operational environment that had defeated the official mission. The electromagnetic warfare systems that had overwhelmed Phantom 6's electronics were being countered by technology integrated into her prosthetic, while atmospheric conditions that had challenged conventional flight control were being managed through neural interface systems that responded faster than biological reflexes. Phantom 6 has aborted mission due to multiple system failures and adverse atmospheric conditions, Hayes reported as he monitored official communications. Jessica, you are now the only aircraft operating in the target zone, and all systems are performing within acceptable parameters despite facing identical challenges that forced the official mission to abort. Jessica's successful navigation through conditions that had defeated the official mission was providing undeniable proof that adaptive technology could achieve objectives that conventional military aviation had declared impossible. Her prosthetic leg was demonstrating capabilities that exceeded the performance of standard pilot aircraft interfaces while providing threat detection and environmental awareness that conventional systems couldn't match. The final approach to the target zone required navigation through the most challenging segment of Operation Silent Thunder, where previous missions had encountered the combination of terrain obstacles, electromagnetic warfare, and atmospheric conditions that had proven insurmountable for conventional approaches. Jessica's enhanced capabilities were being tested under the exact conditions that had resulted in aircraft loss and pilot casualties. Approaching final target zone, Jessica announced as her prosthetic sensors detected increasing electromagnetic interference and atmospheric turbulence that marked the most dangerous phase of the mission profile. All enhanced systems are functioning normally, and I'm maintaining precise flight control despite electronic warfare activity that would compromise conventional aircraft systems. The successful completion of Operation Silent Thunder's final approach phase marked a historic achievement in military aviation, demonstrating that adaptive technology could succeed where traditional methods had consistently failed. Jessica's unique combination of neural interface control, electromagnetic warfare detection, and enhanced environmental awareness had proven capable of overcoming challenges that had defeated the military establishment's best pilots using the most advanced conventional equipment. As Jessica completed the mission profile that had been declared impossible, her flight path was being recorded by monitoring systems that would provide undeniable documentation of adaptive technology's superior performance under operational conditions that had consistently defeated conventional approaches. The demonstration was proving that the future of military aviation lay not in traditional training methods or standard equipment, but in adaptive enhancement that could create capabilities exceeding biological limitations. The successful completion of Jessica's demonstration flight while the official mission failed under identical conditions was providing the military establishment with irrefutable evidence that their assumptions about disability, capability, and technological enhancement needed fundamental revision. The prosthetic leg that had been viewed as disqualifying medical limitation was actually providing capabilities that could revolutionize military aviation operations worldwide. The emergency debrief session convened within 2 hours of Jessica's successful mission completion, held in the Pentagon's most secure conference facility, where walls lined with electromagnetic shielding ensured that discussions of breakthrough military capabilities remained classified at the highest levels. General Patricia Hawkins, commander of the Air Force Special Operations Command, had flown directly from Washington after reviewing preliminary mission reports that suggested fundamental assumptions about pilot capabilities and aircraft systems required immediate reevaluation. Colonel Morrison entered the conference room with the subdued demeanor of someone whose professional worldview had been challenged by evidence that couldn't be dismissed or explained using conventional military science. His decades of experience in aviation operations had taught him to recognize when exceptional circumstances demanded acknowledgement of realities that institutional thinking hadn't anticipated. The successful completion of Operation Silent Thunder, by someone the military had classified as medically unfit for flight duty, represented exactly that kind of paradigm-shifting development. "Ladies and gentlemen," General Hawkins began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded air operations in 3 different theaters of conflict. "The mission data we've reviewed indicates that Sergeant Chun has accomplished something our most experienced pilots and advanced aircraft couldn't achieve. More importantly, her success appears to be based on technological capabilities that could transform how we approach military aviation operations throughout all service branches." Jessica sat at the conference table with the quiet confidence of someone whose theories had been validated by practical results under the most demanding operational conditions. Her prosthetic leg remained connected to portable monitoring equipment that continued analyzing electromagnetic interference patterns and atmospheric data, providing real-time demonstration of capabilities that had enabled her historic achievement. The technology that medical boards had viewed as limitation was now being recognized as revolutionary advancement in pilot aircraft integration. Master Sergeant Hayes presented comprehensive mission analysis data that documented every aspect of Jessica's successful flight, while contrasting her performance with the conventional mission that had failed under identical conditions. The electromagnetic warfare detection capabilities integrated into Sergeant Chen's prosthetic identified and countered hostile electronic attacks that our most advanced aircraft systems couldn't detect. This represents a quantum leap in electronic warfare countermeasures that could protect American aviation assets worldwide. The technical data revealed capabilities that exceeded military research programs that had consumed billions of dollars over multiple decades. Jessica's prosthetic had demonstrated electromagnetic detection sensitivity, neural interface response times, and multitasking abilities that represented the future of military aviation technology, implemented through medical necessity rather than deliberate engineering development. Her unique circumstances had created exactly the kind of pilot enhancement capabilities that Pentagon research programs had been attempting to develop. Dr. Stone provided a neurological analysis that explained how Jessica's brain machine interface had achieved performance levels that conventional pilot training couldn't replicate. The neural pathways developed through prosthetic control have created cognitive capabilities that allow simultaneous processing of multiple data streams while maintaining precise motor control. This isn't just adaptive technology. This is human enhancement that creates capabilities exceeding biological limitations. General Hawkins studied mission recordings that showed Jessica's aircraft maintaining perfect flight control while managing electronic warfare countermeasures and processing atmospheric data that would overwhelm conventional pilots. "Sergeant Chun, your demonstration has proven that our assumptions about medical fitness for flight duty were not just wrong, but counterproductive. The technology we classified as a disqualifying limitation is actually providing capabilities that represent the next evolution of military aviation." The acknowledgement carried weight because it came from senior military leadership, whose careers had been built on making accurate assessments of pilot capabilities and aircraft performance under combat conditions. General Hawkins' recognition that adaptive technology could enhance rather than limit pilot performance represented institutional validation that would reshape military aviation policies for decades to come. Colonel Morrison stood to address Jessica directly, his voice carrying professional respect that contrasted sharply with the dismissive tone he had used during their initial meeting. "Sergeant Chun, I owe you more than an apology. Your success has demonstrated that our institution was failing to recognize capabilities that could save lives and achieve objectives we had considered impossible. The courage you showed in pursuing this demonstration, despite our skepticism, represents exactly the kind of innovative thinking military operations require. The transformation in Colonel Morrison's perspective reflected broader institutional changes that Jessica's success was catalyzing throughout military aviation leadership. Traditional assumptions about disability, enhancement, and pilot qualification were being replaced by evidence-based recognition that adaptive technology could create tactical advantages rather than operational limitations. Dr. Stone revealed that Jessica's successful mission had validated research that could revolutionize medical approaches to military personnel who had sustained injuries traditionally considered career-ending. The neural interface technologies demonstrated here could restore flight capability to hundreds of injured pilots while providing enhanced performance that exceeds pre-injury baselines. We're not just talking about accommodation. We're talking about optimization that creates superior operational capabilities. The broader implications extended beyond individual career restoration to fundamental changes in how military medicine approached injury treatment and capability enhancement. Jessica's demonstration had proven that properly implemented adaptive technology could transform perceived limitations into tactical advantages, creating opportunities for military personnel whose injuries had previously ended their service careers. General Hawkins announced immediate policy changes that would establish new medical evaluation protocols for military aviation, based on demonstrated capabilities rather than assumption-based limitations. Effective immediately, the Air Force will implement adaptive technology assessment programs that evaluate enhancement potential rather than focusing solely on biological function. Sergeant Chun's success has shown us that the future of military aviation lies in human-machine integration that amplifies human capabilities. The policy announcements represented historic changes in military medicine and aviation operations that would affect thousands of service members whose careers had been limited by traditional approaches to disability evaluation. Jessica's demonstration had created precedent for recognizing adaptive technology as enhancement rather than accommodation, opening career paths that had been previously unavailable to military personnel with various physical conditions. Hayes revealed that multiple defense contractors were already requesting access to the technologies Jessica had used, seeking to develop commercially available systems that could provide similar capabilities for military pilots worldwide. The electromagnetic warfare countermeasures and neural interface systems demonstrated during this mission represent market value exceeding $50 million, but their strategic value for military operations is essentially incalculable. The commercial interest reflected recognition that Jessica's adaptive technology approach had military applications that extended far beyond individual accommodation to systematic enhancement of aviation capabilities. Defense contractors understood that neural interface systems and electromagnetic detection technologies could create competitive advantages in military aviation markets, where technological superiority determined contract awards worth billions of dollars. Dr. Stone announced the establishment of an advanced human-machine integration research center that would develop adaptive technologies for military aviation applications based on the principles Jessica's success had validated. This facility will focus on creating enhancement systems that amplify human capabilities rather than simply replacing lost functions. The goal is to provide every military pilot with capabilities that exceed traditional biological limitations. The research center represented institutional commitment to pursuing the technological approaches that Jessica's demonstration had proven effective. Military leadership was investing in adaptive enhancement research that could revolutionize aviation operations while providing career opportunities for service members whose injuries might otherwise end their military careers. Jessica addressed the assembled military leadership with the quiet authority of someone whose practical achievements had earned institutional respect. The success of this mission proves that our understanding of human capability and technological potential needs fundamental revision. Adaptive technology isn't about overcoming limitations. It's about expanding possibilities that benefit everyone involved in military operations. Her words carried the weight of demonstrated success under the most demanding operational conditions, providing perspective that could only come from someone who had achieved objectives that institutional thinking had declared impossible. Jessica's experience proved that breakthrough capabilities could emerge from circumstances that traditional approaches viewed as disadvantageous. General Hawkins concluded the briefing with announcements that would reshape military aviation training, medical evaluation, and technology development based on principles Jessica's success had validated. This demonstration has shown us that the future of military aviation lies not in maintaining traditional approaches, but in embracing enhancement technologies that can create capabilities we haven't previously imagined. The courage and innovation Sergeant Chun has displayed will serve as inspiration for military operations worldwide. The transformation Jessica had initiated would extend far beyond her individual achievement to influence military medicine, aviation technology, and operational capabilities for decades to come. Her demonstration that adaptive technology could succeed where conventional approaches failed had created precedent for recognizing enhancement as advancement rather than accommodation, opening possibilities that would benefit military operations worldwide. The meeting concluded with Jessica receiving an assignment to lead the Advanced Human-Machine Integration Program, providing her with resources and authority to develop the technologies her success had proven effective. The prosthetic leg that had been viewed as a disqualifying medical condition was now recognized as the foundation for revolutionary capabilities that could transform military aviation operations for generations of future pilots. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from U.S.